Hi, students, let's get started with the subject Social Science, Chapter 1. Geographical Diversity of India. In 1984, Rakesh Sharma, the first Indian astronaut to go into space, spoke with the then Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. When she asked him, "How does India look from space?" he replied, "Shre Jahan se acha, better than the whole world." This is the title of a well-known poem of the early 20th century. As you go through this chapter, remember to refer periodically to the physical map. India is the seventh largest country in the world and a part of Asia. Along with its neighbors, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar, it forms the region known as the Indian subcontinent, since it is part of the continent of Asia. Often, for the purpose of discussion, we refer to 5 regions: the Great Mountain Zone, the plains of the Ganga and the Indus, the desert region, the southern peninsula, and the islands. In this chapter, we will fly over these zones, providing you with a bird's-eye view of these features and offering glimpses of what things look like in close-up at some of these places. It would be difficult to go into all the details at this stage since, as you will soon see, India is large and diverse. The Himalayan mountain range stands as a natural barrier in the north, while the Thar Desert and the Arabian Sea mark its western limits. To the south, the Indian Ocean, and to the east, the Bay of Bengal form a natural boundary. These geographical features create a separation between India and the rest of the continent and have played a crucial role in shaping India's climate, culture, and history. Let us now journey together from the Himalayas to the islands in the Indian Ocean and onward to the east of India. The diverse colors on the map already give us a sense of the geographical diversity. Familiarize yourself with the legend on the map. The different colors indicate the altitudes. The Himalayas, look at the length of the Himalayan range on the map. It is like a massive wall. From the legend, can you guess the altitude at different points of the Himalayas? In the summer, the snow on the mountains melts and feeds major rivers such as the Ganga, Indus, and Brahmaputra. These rivers and their tributaries provide water for drinking, farming, and industrial use, connecting with the lives of hundreds of millions of people. Hence, the Himalayas are sometimes called the water tower of Asia. The Himalayas are also important to many cultures and belief systems. The mountains themselves are considered sacred, and temples and monasteries have been built within them, attracting monks and spiritual seekers from around the world who come to pray and meditate. Don't miss out, the Bhagirathi River, a major tributary of the Ganga, originates from Gaumukh, Cow's Mouth, in Uttarakhand. It is the edge of the Gangotri Glacier. This glacier is one of the largest in the Indian Himalayas. It is considered sacred and attracts many pilgrims. Gaumukh is also a popular trekking destination. Next time you see the Ganga, remember, its journey began there. Fig. 1.3. Gaumukh. How the Himalayas were formed. An interesting story. A long time ago, India was part of a much bigger landmass called Gondwana, where its neighbor was Africa. At some point, it broke away and slowly started moving north. About 50 million years ago, it reached the landmass of Eurasia and collided with it. As India pushed against Eurasia, the land between them crumpled and rose up, just like how a carpet wrinkles when you push it. That's how the mighty Himalayan mountains were formed. Amazingly, India is still pushing into Asia today, very slowly, about 5 centimeters each year, which is much slower than the rate at which your hair grows. This means the Himalayas are still growing taller, just a tiny bit each year, about 5 millimeters, but over a millennium, that adds up to 5 meters. Fig. 1.4. India's journey to Eurasia. Fig. 1.5. Folded layers of Himalayan rock. Don't miss out, the word Himalaya is a combination of two Sanskrit words, Hima, meaning snow, and Laya, meaning abode or dwelling, thus, abode of snow. The Himalayas are broadly categorized into three main ranges. The Himadri, the Greater Himalayas, are the highest and most rugged part of the range, home to towering peaks like Mount Everest and Kanchenjunga. This region remains snow-covered throughout the year. Life here is tough, and there are not many human settlements. The Himachal, the lower Himalayas, lie south of the Greater Himalayas and have a more moderate climate, allowing rich biodiversity and human habitation. Popular hill stations such as Nainital, Uttarakhand, Darjeeling, West Bengal, Shimla, Himachal Pradesh, and Mussoorie, Uttarakhand, are located in this region. The Shivalik Hills, the outer Himalayas, form the outermost and lowest range, consisting of rolling hills and dense forests. These foothills are rich in wildlife, serving as a transition zone between the Himalayas and the Gangetic Plains, also called the Northern Plains. Don't miss out, the traditional house construction method in the western Himalayan region is known as Katkuni or Dhajjidevari style of houses. A combination of locally available stone and wood is used, which not only keeps the house warm but also resists damage in the event of mild earthquakes. Fig. 1.6. Katkuni House, Himachal Pradesh. Don't miss out, the Great Himalayan National Park in Himachal Pradesh has a wide diversity of flora and fauna. The park has been declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. The biodiversity of the park is being preserved by the government as well as the village communities that live inside the park. Fig. 1.7. 1. Great Himalayan National Park Conservation Area. 2. Himalayan Monal, male. 3. A monastery in Ladakh. 4. The Beas River in Himachal Pradesh. 5. Snow Leopard 6. A display of produce in a local market in the Himalayas. 7. Rhododendron, a type of sherbet is made out of this flower. The cold desert of India. Fig. 1.8. Moonland, Ladakh. The word desert immediately evokes an image of a hot place. However, there are also cold deserts, and we have one in India. Ladakh is a cold desert where winter temperatures drop below 30 degrees C. There is very little rainfall, and the landscape is rugged, with rocky terrain, deep valleys, and lakes such as Pangong Tso, Tso means lake. The terrain here resembles that of the moon, hence, it is called moonland. Geologists explain the formation of this terrain, as we saw earlier, by the fact that the mountains were folded when the Indian landmass collided with Eurasia. This folded portion was part of an ocean, and so the rocks in this area are made largely of sand and clay. Wind and rain have eroded the mountains into the shapes you see in the photograph. Despite the harsh conditions, Ladakh is home to unique wildlife like snow leopards, ibex, and Tibetan antelopes. The Ladakhi people lead a simple life. The region is known for its ancient monasteries and colorful festivals such as Losar and the Hemis festival. Fig. 1.9. Yaks are very important for the lives of people in the Himalayas. They are reared for their milk, meat, wool and dung, and are also used for transport. Fig. 1.10. Pangong Tso, Ladakh. This lake has salty water, unlike most other lakes. The saltiness is a result of the minerals that dissolve from the surrounding mountain areas. The Gangetic Plains. As we move southwards from the Himalayas, we reach the vast and fertile Gangetic Plains. These plains have been an important part of the history and civilization of India. These plains are nourished by mighty rivers originating from the Himalayas, providing a vital lifeline, water. The Ganga, Indus, and Brahmaputra river systems, along with their extensive network of tributaries, enrich the soil with minerals, making the region highly fertile and ideal for agriculture. The rivers bring with them minerals that enrich the soil, enabling abundant agriculture. The rivers are also a source for generating electricity. A large proportion of India's population lives in these plains. Fig. 1.11. Modern agricultural practices in the plains. Fig. 1.12. Aerial view of Delhi with the river Yamuna on top right. Fig. 1.13. Multi-cropping in Uttar Pradesh. Fig. 1.14. Rural women working in a paddy field in West Bengal. The flat land of the northern plains has allowed for the development of an elaborate transportation network. Road and railway networks facilitate the movement of people and goods over long distances. As you will see in the tapestry of the past chapters, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra and other rivers have been used for millennia for travel and trade. Fig. 1.15. Modes of transport in the Gangetic Plains. Don't miss out, most rivers are named after goddesses, Ganga, Yamuna, Kaveri, etc. The name of Brahmaputra, however, means the son of Brahma. This river gets bigger during summer instead of drying up. Can you guess why? The Great Indian Desert or Thar Desert. If we move westward on the map, you will notice a yellowish area. This area is the Thar Desert. What do you see? A vast stretch of golden dunes, rugged terrain, and a wide open sky. Sand dunes are formed when the wind shifts and shapes the sand into hill-like formations. Sometimes these rise as high as 150 meters. The Thar is a vast arid region. Most of it lies within India, spanning the states of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab, and Haryana. The desert acts as a natural barrier due to the harsh conditions that deter human and animal movement, including very high daytime temperatures and cold nights, as well as a lack of access to water. People living in the Thar have adapted their way of life to the place and what it offers. Food habits, clothing and lifestyle are suited to these harsh conditions. Fig. 1.21. A traveler among the sand dunes of the Thar Desert. Fig. 1.23. Camel vendor at the Pushkar Mela, at the edge of the Thar Desert. Don't miss out. Fig. 1.24. Left. Women fetching water from a source far away from home. Right. Rainwater harvesting structure in a hamlet. Water is scarce in the desert. Women often need to travel long distances every day to fetch water for their families. So, the traditional method for cleaning utensils is to scour them with sand until they are clean. A little water can be used for a light rinse. The water used for rinsing is reused for purposes like watering a plant. So, the next time you leave the tap running, remember the people of the Thar Desert. Rajasthan is also famous for its ingenious water conservation methods, including tanka or kunds. These are special water collection systems that store rainwater, often for drinking purposes. The Aravalli Hills. The Aravalis are among the oldest mountains in the world, some 2.5 billion years old. The range has many peaks and ridges. Although its highest peak, Mount Abu, towers at over 1,700 meters, most of its hills are between 300 and 900 meters high. Isn't it fascinating that a drive of about 4.5 hours can take us from Mount Abu in the Aravalis to Jodhpur in the Thar Desert, a drive into a completely different geography? The Aravalis play a vital role in shaping the geography and climate of northwestern India. One of its most important functions is acting as a natural barrier, preventing the Thar Desert from expanding further eastward. You will read more about this later. The Aravalis, rich in minerals like marble, granite, zinc, and copper, have supported mining and construction activities for centuries. In fact, evidence from its ancient mines at Jawar has shown that over 8 centuries ago, Indians were the first in the world to master the delicate process of extraction of zinc. Historic forts, such as Chittorgarh, Kumbhalgarh, and Ranthambore, are located here. Fig. 1.25. Left, a part of the Aravalis, just beyond this range, the Thar Desert begins. Right, a part of the Aravalis seen from space. Fig. 1.26. Kumbhalgarh Fort surrounded by the Aravalis. This location in the hills proved to be an excellent deterrent to the enemy. The Peninsular Plateau. India has several plateaus. The most important one is the triangular peninsular area in the middle and south of the country. It is also a very old land formation. Since this region is a peninsula, surrounded by water on all 3 sides by the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean, it is called a peninsular plateau. The plateau is bordered by 2 mountain ranges, the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. The Western Ghats are taller and run along the western coast like a wall, with many beautiful waterfalls flowing down their steep sides during the monsoon season. Don't miss out, the Western Ghats have been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They are home to many rivers and have a rich biodiversity. The northern portion of the Western Ghats are also known as the Sahyadri Hills. The Eastern Ghats are lower and broken into smaller hills along the eastern coast. Between these mountain ranges lies the Deccan Plateau, a vast area of flat highlands. Rivers like the Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri flow across the plateau from west to east. These rivers are important for farming and provide water to millions of people. This plateau is rich in minerals, forests, and fertile land, making it vital for India's economy. It tilts a little to the east, so few of the rivers in this region flow towards the Bay of Bengal. East-flowing rivers like the Godavari, Krishna, and Mahandi originate here, providing water for farming, industries, and hydroelectric power. There are west-flowing rivers, Narmada, Tapti, too, which drain into the Arabian Sea. Dense forests on the plateau are home to tribal communities, including the Santhal, Gond, Bega, Bhil, and Korku. These tribes have distinct languages, traditions, and ways of life closely connected to nature. Plateaus are home to many beautiful waterfalls in India, as rivers flow over their uneven and rocky surfaces. These waterfalls not only attract tourists but also help in hydroelectric power generation and provide water for irrigation. India's amazing coastlines. India's coastline is dotted with beautiful beaches, rocky cliffs, and lush green forests. Some beaches have golden sand while others have black rocks. Some islands have coral reefs while others are covered in thick jungles. India's coasts are full of surprises. The Indian coastline is over 7,500 kilometers long. The west coast of India. The west coast of India stretches from Gujarat to Kerala, passing through Maharashtra, Goa, and Karnataka. Most rivers here originate in the Western Ghats, flow swiftly, and form estuaries. The coastline is shaped by alluvial deposits from short rivers and features coves, creeks, and estuaries, with the Narmada and Tapti estuaries being the largest. Fig. 1.34. An aerial view of a part of the west coast. Note how close the hills of the Western Ghats are to the Arabian Sea. The west coast has many important ports and cities. These have been the centers of economic activity for millennia. The east coast. The east coast lies between the Eastern Ghats and the Bay of Bengal, stretching from the Ganga Delta to Kanyakumari. It has wide plains and major river deltas, including Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. Important water bodies like Chilika Lake and Pulicat Lake, a lagoon, which is a body of water separated from larger bodies of water by a natural barrier, are found here. Deltas are landforms formed at the mouth of a river when it deposits sediments into a larger body of water, such as an ocean, a lake, or another river. Over time, these sediments build up, forming a triangular or fan-shaped area. The Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, and Mahanadi rivers create fertile deltas, making the land ideal for farming. Satellite view of the east coast of India. Indian islands. The Indian islands refer to the group of islands scattered across the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal, which form part of India's territory. India has two major island groups, Lakshadweep in the Arabian Sea and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal. These islands have unique wildlife, beautiful beaches, coral reefs, and volcanoes. Several ancient tribes made these islands their home tens of thousands of years ago. Lakshadweep Islands. Lakshadweep is an archipelago, a group of islands, located in the Arabian Sea, close to the Malabar coast of Kerala. It is made up of 36 islands made of coral. Not all islands are inhabited by people. India controls a vast marine area, allowing for fishing, resource exploration, and environmental protection. Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This archipelago comprises more than 500 large and small volcanic islands, divided into two distinct groups, the Andaman and the Nicobar Islands. Their location is very important. They are like the outposts of India, keeping an eye on the ocean. It is home to a variety of flora and fauna. The Andaman Islands are also significant from a historical point of view. Many of our freedom fighters were jailed there under the most severe conditions in a prison complex called Cellular Jail. It has been preserved to remind us of the tremendous sacrifices that our forefathers made so we could be free. We will discuss this some more in higher classes. Fig. 1.36. Coral Reef in the Lakshadweep Islands. Fig. 1.37. Coral Reef in the Anne. Fig. 1.38. A floating dock, a small port, of the Indian Navy near the Andaman Islands. Fig. 1.39. An aerial view of the active volcano on Barren Island, the only one in India. Don't miss out, Barren Island, Fig. 1.39 above, in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands is the only active volcano in India. It sometimes erupts, sending smoke and lava into the sky. The delta in West Bengal and the Sundarbans, as we travel back from the islands towards the eastern side of the Himalayas via the Bay of Bengal, we come to the Sundarbans. This is located in the delta of the Ganga, Brahmaputra. You saw them earlier in the chapter, and their tributaries. This delta has a unique combination of the river, sea and land. About half of it is located in India, and the rest is in Bangladesh. This is also a UNESCO heritage site. The Sundarbans are home to many species, including the Royal Bengal tiger. Fig. 1.40. Mangroves of the delta in the Sundarbans of West Bengal. Fig. 1.41. Left to right, top to bottom, Seven Sisters Waterfalls, Meghalaya, India. The Shad Suk Minsiam festival is celebrated by the Khasi people as a form of gratitude towards nature. Living Roots Bridge near Nongriat village, Cherrapunji, Meghalaya. The hills of the northeast. Stay on the map as we move towards the hills of the northeast, our final destination for now. Can you see Garo, Khasi, and Jantia marked on the map? These hills, part of the Meghalaya Plateau, are known for their lush greenery, heavy rainfall, and breathtaking waterfalls. This region experiences one of the highest rainfalls in the world, making it rich in forests, unique wildlife, and fertile land. Don't miss out, Molenong village, situated in the East Khasi Hills of Meghalaya, is renowned as the cleanest village in Asia. This picturesque village is famous for its well-maintained cleanliness, bamboo dustbins, and eco-friendly living practices. The village is also known for its living root bridges, which are created by weaving tree roots over the course of many years. Fig. 1.42. Living root bridges showcase the craftsmanship of the tribes of the Northeast. Thanks for watching.